In retirement, your spouse is number one. But to be honest, your spouse should always be number one. You know, many years ago, I had a discussion when I was younger and I had young kids with a coworker. And I remember him telling me, this guy, he was a Christian guy, and he said, well, in his hierarchy of the way things were, Jesus was number one, then number two was his wife, then number three was his kids. And I remember I was probably around 30 years old, and my thoughts were, putting the Jesus thing aside, I wasn't religious really at that time, and I said, well, hold on, shouldn't your kids be above your wife in that situation? Because, you know, you have to raise your kids and you have to train them up the right way, and you're running around taking them to all these places and sports and all that kind of stuff. So they're your responsibility, and that's a huge responsibility to raise good, responsible kids into adults. So I thought, that doesn't make sense whatsoever. And that's the way I believed for many years. And fast forwarding now, all these many years ahead, now I can kind of see a little more of what he was talking about. See, in retirement, or when you're at that retirement time, you come to realize that your kids are grown up, they've probably left, you're empty nesters, and who are you left with? And if you have neglected that relationship for years, putting it second to your children, then now you're left with that person that you didn't really give the time and effort into. And maybe that relationship is not great. We've heard stories about older people that are just waiting for the kids to leave to have their divorce. Very, very sad situation. So this is why I wanted to make this video as advice. In your retirement, you are now going to be full-time with your significant other, your husband or your wife. And if you haven't grown a wonderful relationship all these years with that person, then maybe you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be stuck with this person, and now you've got some repair work to do. Or, you know, in the trades, we would always hear jokes about the guys saying, oh, I don't know how I'm going to handle being full-time with my wife now, and now I'm going to have to go look for a part-time job. Or a year later, they're coming back to work begging to go to come back and get a job again because their wife is kicking them out of the house. The wife's saying, oh, you're home full-time now, you're bugging me, you need to go find a hobby, get out of here, go back to work or something. So this is why you need to really take this to heart. You need to make your wife your priority. So looking back on what that gentleman said to me many, many years ago, I actually talked to him when I was considering retirement. I called him up and got his 2 cents again. And at that stage in my life, my kids were all gone, and they were starting to have their own children, and I was in a situation where I would be just me and my wife potentially. And that's when he reminded me. He said, now it's not about you and your kids, although you have to love your kids and want a wonderful relationship. Now you need to focus on you and your wife. And I'm going to do another video in this series about kids and grandkids and them moving away and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, your responsibility is to ensure that your relationship is solid between you and your wife or husband, that you're lifting them up, you are being the best version of yourself for them. So my advice to young people would be to always place your spouse above yourself, and don't tear them down, lift them up at every chance you get. So yeah, in retirement, your spouse is your number one priority. Forget about the finances, all that kind of stuff. Because again, if you are lucky enough to retire early, that's wonderful. You've got many years to spend with that person. But maybe you've been in a situation where your retirement doesn't take place until later on in life, and who knows how many years you have left with that, with your significant other, and you want to make it the best it can possibly be. So my advice to you is always place your spouse first. So hope that helps, guys. Just some tips and some advice from me and my story. Press the like button if you liked it. Put a comment down below, and we'll see you on the next one, the next series in retirement stuff. Okay? Take care.